she almost lost her mind filming this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the cameras flashed, the crowd froze. And just like that, Hollywood had a new obsession.
Setting the scene. I like it.
Picture this. A woman stands completely alone in front of a burning building. It is the 18th century. She is totally exposed, vulnerable, and naked.
Okay, high drama right out of the gate.
Exactly. And the cameras are rolling on 70mm film, so they're capturing every single flicker of the firelight, the sweat, the ash, the terror, everything.
Which is incredibly unforgiving.
It really is. But here's the twist. What the audience doesn't see, what even that massive intrusive camera lens might not catch, is the bizarre secret piece of prosthetic magic that made the actress feel completely free amidst the flames.
Wait, prosthetic magic?
Oh yeah, she stopped freezing her face. She screamed until she sounded totally feral. And she wore, well, I mean, we will get to that in a minute.
They can't just leave me hanging like that.
Welcome to the story of how Hollywood's favorite musical darling went to the absolute edge of sanity to become a cult leader.
I am so ready for this.
Welcome to Starscope Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today's deep dive is a wild one.
It really is. We are looking into the method acting madness behind The Testament of Anne Lee, the new film starring Amanda Seyfried that honestly has critics raving and audiences just totally confused, shocked, and completely mesmerized.
This is the one everyone is talking about, right?
Oh, absolutely. And if you think you know Amanda Seyfried from, like, Mamma Mia or Mean Girls, you are going to want to sit down for this.
Because she went all out.
She did. And just yesterday, so February 25th, 2026, she was on BBC Radio 2, and she dropped the bombshell that literally has the entire internet asking questions about anatomy.
I saw the headlines. I think I know exactly what you were going to say.
I really hope so, because we have to talk about the prosthetic revelation.
Please tell me we are starting with the viral story.
We have to. So she is on the radio talking about this gritty, very raw historical drama directed by Mona Fastvold.
Right.
Seyfried plays Anne Lee, the founder of the Shakers. The movie is graphic, and it required total nudity. But she revealed that for the finale, that burning building scene I mentioned,
Yeah.
she was wearing a prosthetic butthole.
I'm sorry, a prosthetic what?
You heard me. A prosthetic butthole.
Are you serious?
Totally serious. She told the host, she said, this movie needed to be graphic, so I had a prosthetic butthole. And the craziest part is she admits you cannot even see it in the final cut.
So she wore a custom prosthetic for a part of her body that wasn't even on screen.
Exactly. She said she wore it, quote, just in case.
Just in case. That is a level of commitment I did not expect.
Right.
But, you know, as absurd as that sounds, and it is objectively hilarious, there's actually a really fascinating layer of psychology going on there.
There really is. Because she also mentioned she was wearing a merkin, which is a pubic wig, and she said something so profound. She said, I was pregnant and naked, but I wasn't naked at all. I felt so free.
That makes so much sense. If you look at the history of nudity in film, it is usually all about vulnerability or, honestly, exploitation.
Yeah, exactly.
But here, she is using prosthetics as armor. It is a literal protective layer. It lets her be technically naked for the art, but personally shielded.
It is a massive shift in industry standards.
Yeah.
Seyfried actually compared it to when she was 19 years old. She talked about walking around sets without underwear back then simply because she didn't want to upset anybody.
Ugh, that is heartbreaking, honestly. Just wanting to keep your job and not make waves.
Exactly. It highlights how much the power dynamic has shifted in her career. Now she is in a position to say, no, I am wearing this prosthetic shield. And it gives her the artistic freedom to perform without that personal exposure. She literally called feeling that way uncrushable.
It creates a strict boundary. It separates Amanda, the person, from Anne Lee, the character. And considering the pure intensity of this role, she needed every single boundary she could get.
Oh, absolutely. And if you think a prosthetic adjustment to her anatomy was a big commitment, wait until you hear what she did to her face. Or rather, what she stopped doing to it.
Oh, the Botox ban.
Yes. But real quick, if you are loving these Hollywood twists, make sure you are subscribed. We have got even crazier stories ahead as we dig into awards season.
Definitely hit that subscribe button. You do not want to miss what we find.
Okay, so back to the face. Seyfried gave up Botox for a full year to play this role.
Which in Hollywood years is basically a decade.
Basically, yeah.
But for the listeners who might be thinking, so what, she stopped getting shots? We really need to explain why this matters technically for the film.
Right. This was not just some vanity choice or her wanting a natural look.
Mm-hmm.
The director, Mona Fastvold, shot this entirely on 70mm film.
And 70mm is brutally unforgiving.
Oh, totally.
It is a wide-gauge film stock. It captures much higher resolution than standard film or even most digital cameras. Think of movies like The Brutalist or The Master.
Exactly. High definition, super grainy in the best way. It captures the texture of the skin, the sweat, and most importantly, the micro movements of the facial muscles.
So Fastfold needed her face to actually move.
She needed it to move completely naturally, to show the madness, the tenderness, and the raw power of a religious zealot.
That makes total sense. If you are playing an 18th century woman who literally believes she is the female incarnation of Christ, you can't be screaming at a congregation with a perfectly smooth frozen forehead. It instantly breaks the illusion.
Seyfried actually called it a big assignment. She admitted she frowns a lot in real life, but she realized there was this massive freedom in just letting her face be expressive and letting all those ugly emotions show.
And ugly is definitely the right word here. This movie is not trying to be pretty. It is trying to be incredibly visceral.
Yeah, visceral is the perfect word.
I was reading up on the birth montage sequence, and it sounds absolutely grueling.
Oh man, the birth montage.
Yeah.
That is the true centerpiece of the film's feral energy.
Because it is not the typical Hollywood version of birth, right? Where there is a little bead of sweat on the forehead, some heavy breathing, and then boom, a clean baby appears.
Not even close. The entire shoot was 34 days long. But they spent 4 full days just dedicated to this one montage.
4 days, wow.
A montage of Anne Lee giving birth to 4 children and losing every single one of them.
That is immense trauma. That is more than 10% of the entire shooting schedule dedicated solely to obstetric tragedy.
And it was bloody, it was sinewy, it was deeply effortful. The makeup team, they created these medical-grade birthing vaginas and pleating umbilical cords.
Wow, so the practical effects were just as raw as the acting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Seyfried described the performance as making animal sounds rather than melodic ones. She said she felt completely let loose in a way she never had before in her entire career.
That ties right back to that word feral. We often sanitize history so much, especially religious history. We picture it as very stiff, very polite, with high collars.
Right, exactly.
But life in the 18th century was incredibly visceral. Birth, death, illness, it was all happening right there in the same room.
And for Anne Lee, that trauma is the absolute catalyst for everything that follows. She loses these children, and that immense pain transforms into this radical theology.
Which is fascinating because the Shakers fundamentally believed that sex was the root of all evil.
Right.
And if you have gone through 4 traumatic births and lost all of them, you can completely see how someone might arrive at that conclusion.
Yeah, it stops looking like religious madness and starts looking like a severe trauma response.
Exactly. The logic is, if this act leads to this unimaginable pain, we must stop the act.
It is a tragic logic. And coming up later in the deep dive, we're going to talk about how this movie is technically a musical. But if you are expecting Les Miserables, think again. We are talking chest beating, speaking in tongues, and a dance so intense it made the actress literally weep.
I cannot wait for this part.
Okay, so let's get into it. The Testament of Anne Lee is technically a musical.
But the songs are based on 18th century Shaker hymns, right?
Correct. So no jazz hands, no sweeping orchestral Broadway numbers.
Yeah, from what I understand, the vibe is less choreography and more, well, exorcism.
Exorcism is exactly it. They were called the Shaking Quakers for a reason. They were trembling, falling on the floor, beating their chests to physically rid the body of the devil.
And the feral nature of this shoot extended right to the crew, too. The choreographer, Celia Rowlson-Hall, she actually said she felt the ghost of Anne Lee hovering over her bed one night.
No way.
Yeah. She said the ghost was telling her to go forth.
Okay, that is terrifying. But also totally perfect for this movie. The whole set must have been operating on this crazy, heightened frequency. It really was. And the way they filmed these sequences was wild. There is this one key scene on a boat, the Mariah, during a massive storm.
Okay, setting a storm on a boat, that sounds expensive.
You would think. But remember, the total budget for this film was only $10 million.
10 million? That is absolute pennies for a period epic. Costume dramas alone usually eat up that budget.
Pennies. They could not afford a real ship on the water. They couldn't afford a massive water tank.
Oh, what did they do?
They used a rain tower on a wooden dock, some very clever camera tricks, and just pure, raw, physical performance from the actors.
That is the absolute magic of limitations. When you cannot just CGI a hurricane, the actors have to sell it with their bodies. They have to physically be the storm.
And they sold it. Oh, did they sell it? When the film premiered at the Venice Film Festival, the reception was it was staggering.
I heard about the standing ovation.
A 15-minute standing ovation.
15 minutes. That is bordering on a marathon. My hands would be bleeding.
Right. It is so long. And during the applause, Amanda Seyfried was seen just openly weeping. And she even started doing a little bit of the physical shaker dance right there in the theater while people were clapping.
She must have been so overcome. After holding all that feral energy for the shoot and then seeing it embraced like that by critics, that is a massive release.
The reviews are calling it her career best performance. She already won the Astor Film Award, and she is nominated for a Golden Globe and a Critics' Choice Award.
It is such a phenomenal pivot for her. But, speaking of pivots and names, did you see the side story about the other Ann Lee?
Oh my gosh, yes. The journalist.
Yes. There is a writer for The Guardian named Ann Lee.
Poor woman.
And she wrote this completely hilarious piece about having an identity crisis because her name is now permanently associated with a prosthetic butthole movie and 18th century celibacy cults.
I mean, you share a name with a historical figure, you think you're safe, and then Hollywood gets a hold of it.
She actually said she is just relieved the movie is getting good reviews so her name isn't attached to a flop.
Small mercies. Hey, still tuned and hit that subscribe button so you do not miss what is coming next, because we love digging into these weird behind-the-scenes stories.
Absolutely. You will not find this stuff in the standard press junkets.
So let's pivot back to the core of the film. We've talked about the prosthetics, the dancing, the lack of Botox, but we really need to unpack the themes here, because there is a massive paradox at the center of this story.
The paradox of the body itself.
Exactly. Ann Lee was a woman who completely renounced sex. She called it the root of all evil. Yet the film Mona Fastvold made is incredibly graphic, physical, and sweaty.
It is deeply ironic. A movie about strict celibacy that feels so overwhelmingly carnal.
Right.
But I think that is the point. The Shakers didn't just ignore the body. They were totally obsessed with it because they were actively trying to transcend it.
And Ann Lee truly believed she was the female incarnation of Christ.
Which is a very heavy mantle to take on.
But the brilliant thing is, Seyfried did not play her as a villain. She didn't play her as some manipulative con artist.
No, and that is what makes the performance so nuanced. She played her as this nurturing leader. The director actually said something really profound. She said Ann Lee could not mother her own children because they all died, so she decided to mother the world instead.
Wow, that reframes the entire cult aspect completely. It is not about a thirst for power. It is about displaced maternity.
Exactly. She built a family because she lost hers. She created this insulated world where she was mother to everyone. It is deeply tragic, but also incredibly powerful as a survival mechanism.
And speaking of survival mechanisms, the production story behind this is almost as scrappy as the Shakers themselves.
Getting an indie film made right now is nearly impossible.
It really is. Mona Fastvold and her partner, Brady Corbet, who co-wrote the script with her, they really struggled to get financing.
I mean, I can see why. The elevator pitch is tough. Hey, do you want to fund a $10 million movie about celibate 18th century furniture makers who scream and shake?
Right. Industry interest was basically zero initially. But despite the low budget, the film looks absolutely huge. They used that lush lighting, actual candlelight, in the 70mm film. Critics are describing the final product as a spiritual fever dream.
It really reminds me of what Brady Corbet did directing The Brutalist. They both share this totally uncompromising artistic vision. They are managing to make these sweeping historical epics on tiny indie budgets.
It is so impressive. It proves you do not need a $200 million superhero budget to make something that feels massive and important.
You just need a fantastic script, a visionary director, and an actress who is willing to wear a prosthetic butthole just in case.
Bringing it full circle, I love it.
Yeah.
But honestly, it all connects perfectly. The extreme commitment to the physical reality of the character is exactly what sells the spiritual journey.
And that brings us to the biggest question. Why are we so fascinated by this specific story right now? Why is it resonating so much in 2026?
That is the ultimate question.
Right.
Because we live in this era of influencers, massive internet fandoms, and the cult of personality.
We really do. And if you think about it, Ann Lee was essentially the ultimate influencer of her day.
That is such a good point.
She offered people a community. She offered them absolute safety from their pain and the chaos of the world. Her pitch was basically, follow me, subscribe to my beliefs, and I will give you a brand new family.
And in a world that felt dangerous and unpredictable, which the 18th century definitely was, that is an incredibly seductive pitch.
It is, and it makes you wonder, is Hollywood or influencer culture really that different today?
Probably not.
You have these charismatic figures, these stars, and we project all our hopes and anxieties onto them. We follow their every move. We want to emulate them.
But we join their specific fandoms and defend them fiercely.
Exactly. Anne Lee lost everything, so she built a world from scratch where she was essentially God. And maybe that is what human beings are always looking for, a world where the rules make sense and someone confident is in charge, even if that person is just a grieving woman from Manchester who is literally making it up as she goes along.
That is a thought that is going to keep me up tonight.
Yeah.
Honestly, from the prosthetic choices to the deepest nature of human belief, what an absolute ride this story is.
It really is a masterpiece of commitment.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where Jordan and Jamie uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.